How you doing, Professor Ellis? It's nice to finally meet you. Today I chose to do my informative speech on corrections. I was a correctional officer for a year and a half, and now I'm majoring in criminal justice. I got 3 weeks till I graduate. Woo! And I have seen many functions of our justice system from the inside out. I have an idea of what works and what doesn't. For as long as society has existed, it has been made up of 2 categories of people: law-abiding citizens and menaces to society. Today, these menaces are more commonly known as criminal offenders. As long as we have criminal offenders, we are going to need some type of sanction to detain, manage, or rehabilitate them so that they may function as a productive part of society. This is the job assigned to the Department of Corrections. The main problem that emerges in the Department of Corrections is what to do with these criminal offenders. Should they get tough and lock them up and throw away the key and hope that this will serve as an example to potential criminal offenders? Or should they just simply lock up the criminals and isolate them from the rest of society? These are valid options that have been previously experimented with in the United States and to a certain extent are still being experimented with. The trouble with these options is that they create severe overcrowding in our prisons, which in turn digs in deeper to the pockets of hardworking citizens. On average, it costs about $56 per day for each inmate, which is a little over $20,000 per year. The United States prison population is about 2 million inmates. Multiply 2 million by 20,000, plus the cost to run the correctional facilities. That is a lot of money that is charged to taxpayers. Why invest so much money into an institution that just keeps growing in size and cost? Why not invest the people's money into programs that could help lower the population of correctional institutions and rehabilitate criminal offenders so that they could be productive citizens in society? Rehabilitation was an option that was experimented with back during the Progressive Era. Inmates were diagnosed with a problem and were treated for that problem during the time that they were incarcerated, in the event that they may rejoin society. Society needs to invest more of their tax dollars in rehabilitation programs than in prisons, and these programs and sanctions there has to be some type of treatment involved that will point out the risk factors in the offenders and treat it. All of the correctional approaches, rehabilitation is the most effective approach, and it also reduces recidivism. The main argument against rehabilitation is that it is too soft on offenders and that it does not work. If rehabilitation is lenient but improves the offender, then it has achieved the goal and is worth it. Recent literature reviews and meta-analysis demonstrate that rehabilitation programs can effectively change offenders. Some rehabilitation programs don't work because most programs don't adhere to the basic principles to effective rehabilitation: risk, need, and responsivity. This means that they have to incorporate high-risk offenders in the program, target the risk factors, and deliver the program in a way that the offender can understand. For example, you can't put someone arrested for shoplifting into a program designed for drug offenders, or vice versa. It would be counterproductive on both parts. The level of recidivism of the offenders treated measures the effectiveness of a rehabilitation program. There are various effective methods of rehabilitation out there. One rehab option is adult basic education. Educational level is a big indicator of potential criminal offenders. About 80% of criminals in prison don't have a high school diploma. By '94, a low level of personal education was categorized in one of the 6 major need risk factors within the general personality and social psychology of criminal conduct. So it is logical to think that if offenders are better educated, the lower the chance that they will recommit a crime. The Adult Basic Education Program teaches participants how to read, write, and understand basic math. Adult Basic Education participants whom entered prison with an 8th grade education level or less had a lower rate of rearrest or parole revocation, 46.7%, than non-participants, which was 52.2%, after 36 months. The better educated a person is, then the better the likelihood that the person will get an honest job and earn a living. Cognitive behavioral therapy programs are another form of effective rehabilitation. Cognitive behavioral therapies comprise of a number of different approaches which attempt to change behavior by changing the dysfunctional ways an individual thinks, their attitudes, beliefs, and thinking patterns. Theorists suggest that there are about 20 different types of cognitive behavioral therapies which generally fall into 2 different areas: moral reasoning and development, and information processing. One of the cognitive behavioral therapy is moral recognition therapy. The moral recognition suggests that people with higher levels of morality are able to behave in a way that is accepted by society. Since criminals behave in a way that is not accepted by society, this means that they have lower levels of morality. Moral recognition tries to improve criminal offenders' moral reasoning to reduce their delinquent behavior, thus also reducing recidivism. Moral recognition therapy participants had a lower reincarceration rate, 41.2%, than the control group, which was 56.2%. This is why moral recognition therapy is effective in reducing the recidivism of offenders. Another form of rehab that is productive is community-based corrections for chemically dependent offenders. Since the majority of people arrested had been under the influence of some drug or alcohol when they committed the crime. The National Institute of Justice for Drugs forecasting program consistently finds high rates of illicit drug use among arrestees in the 24 participating cities nationwide. In 1995, between 47 and 78% of male arrestees and 44 to 85% of female arrestees tested positive for use of illegal drugs. These programs target the reasons why offenders depend on the drugs or alcohol, whether if it's because of depression, recreation, or if they were just born depending on the substance and attempts to treat the cause. It's thought that drugs and alcohol has an adverse effect on the offender's ability to reason, therefore contributing to their delinquent behavior. Participants in prison and outpatient programs were less likely to be arrested than those in no treatment. Rehabilitation may not work 100%, but it does rehabilitate some offenders. That is more than any of the other correctional approaches could do. The United States has adopted a retribution policy towards criminal offenders. The United States believes that we should just lock up offenders and throw away the key. This approach has made the United States number 2 in the prison population in the world, just behind Russia. Putting offenders away is not going to lower the amount of criminals. It is having a counter effect by raising the amount of criminals. If the rehabilitation approach just rehabilitates 30%, then at least that is better than none. That's my speech on corrections. I hope you liked it, Mr. Ellis. Good to meet you, and look forward to you seeing my other speeches. Thanks. Have a good one.